is it took a left in there and then a right jog, and it ran all the way through the woods, all the way up to Worcester. So, great transportation. When they had the Chautauqua at Mount Wade, they would have 10 or 12 trains a day just going to Mount Wade area. So you can see that we were well served by the railroad. On our symbol of the town, we have a big wheel, and it indicates also all the directions of the trains going out of the town. And of course, this brings us right up to today, right up to the 20th century.
Welcome to our 20th century. This little room at the top of the stairs has our Wallace Nutting exhibit. Wallace Nutting came to Framingham in 1912, and he lived here the rest of his life until he died in 1941. His home was just a couple of houses up Vernon Street. It was called Nutting Home, and his treasury of antiques and clocks is still used as a reference. It is a very fine reference. The antiques also led to a reproduction furniture business, again, that was housed in the building down on Park Street. These were very well made and are accurate reproductions of antiques and are themselves now in collector's items. They were signed by Wallace Nutting, as his pictures were all signed by Wallace Nutting. Of course, we know that the colorists themselves learned to write his signature, so there's a little variation in his signatures. But Wallace Nutting is probably better known throughout the country than he is right here in Framingham. In fact, I think it's too bad that we don't have a Nutting Road someplace in town. Now let's go into the rest of our 20th century exhibit. Okay, the 20th century occupies only half of this floor. We're fast approaching the end of the 20th century, but our exhibits are a little bit sparse because at this point people throw things away instead of keeping them. We are sending out wish lists for things that we hope to include in our 20th century exhibit. The other half of the floor is devoted to our workspace and extra storage space. So this half of the top floor is our 20th century exhibit. Starting in this corner, we have a little bit of the Denison Manufacturing Company. They came to Framingham in 1898. They had started in a little residence in Brooklyn, in Brunswick, Maine, and eventually moved to Newton and then eventually to Framingham, occupying a factory that had been built for the Para Rubber Company. At one time, Framingham was known as Tag Town because Denison was so well known throughout the country, and the Denison tags were used universally. They published books about using crepe paper, which was another of their products, of course, for decoration and also for costumes, for tablecloths, napkins, and all that sort of thing. The top of the cabinet has some of the trophies that were won at the airport. Now, Framingham had two airports. One was at the muster field and another one down by the area where General Motors plant was eventually built. But Framingham airports were popular, and they were a source of instruction, mostly. Not commercial use, but more for instruction. Going on to the Long Company, starting way back from 1902 up to the very present. The Long Company made not only the Bay State car, which was a very spiffy little roadster touring car, but they also made the Waldorf shoe. We have a shoe box from the Waldorf Company, but we don't have a shoe. We're hoping that sometime eventually somebody will find one of those shoes in their attic, because that would be a nice addition for our collection. The exhibit continues on with a little model of Nevins Hall. Now, Nevins Hall was built as a memorial hall, and in 1928, this little model is a little bit the worse for wear, because at one time it was used as a prop in a model railroad exhibit. But it will be spiffed up, and it does give a very good picture of the extent of that memorial hall and just how it fits into the triangle where it's located downtown. Continuing on, of course, the 20th century was a century of wars, World War I, II, and we have some of the ration cards, some of the civilian artifacts from those wars. And of course the posters were very important. They were usually posted in the post office. One over on the left here is World War I, and then this one of World War II. On the other side of the room, we have a model with Christa McAuliffe's flight suit. Christa McAuliffe was born in Framingham, attended Framingham schools, Marion High School, and Framingham State College. And in 1985, she was nominated to be Teacher in Space. This is a copy of the flight suit with Christa's name up on the lapel and the patch for the rest of the crew. Of course, as you know, that Challenger was unfortunately blew up on takeoff in January 1986. But we feel very fortunate to have this flight suit because it represents her courage and her action as a teacher in space. Continuing on, we have, of course, the Framingham Heart Study, which again is known probably throughout the world and has been in operation in Framingham since 1949. Chances are Framingham was chosen because years ago, in 1917, 1922, Framingham had been selected for a TB study. This was sponsored by the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company and prompted a good bit of information, and again, because of the diversity of the population of Framingham, the TB study for over 5 years brought forth a lot of information, just as the heart study has since 1949. They're, you see, now fast approaching their 50th anniversary. Continuing along here, we have a model of Shopper's World, which of course has only recently been lost to our community. And it's very interesting when the school children come through here. There's a great deal, of course, that is not in their memory, but as soon as they see this model of Shopper's World, they say, oh yes, they remember that. Now these are third graders, you see, that we're talking about, but we do try to keep up to date on what is here and what is lost. The 1950s was a great time of expansion for Framingham. This was post-World War II, when many, many houses were built. In fact, the population exploded, as you can see by the chart on the wall, starting at 1700 and then going up to 1900. And in 1950, 1960, you see the curve goes straight up. The population growth almost doubled at that time. It's leveled off since then. It leveled off about 10 years ago. And we're staying pretty much the same at 65,000 now. The 1950s we take as representative of the 20th century, and so we have a Formica kitchen set that was very popular in all of these houses that were built in Framingham at that time. A small radio. How many remember the glass bottles that the milk was delivered in? We had several different dairies in Framingham. This particular one is from the Waveney Dairy. The rotary telephone, even the third graders are surprised to see a rotary phone because, of course, most of them know how to use the touch tone, but not the rotary phone. WKOX came to Framingham, of course, during that time, as well as General Motors. General Motors, of course, was the assembly for Oldsmobile, Pontiac, and eventually Chevrolet. Of course, we've lost General Motors only recently. But some of the companies that are still here, such as the men's stores, Carpenters, let me see, I can't think of anything else in there right now. It was the development of the mall. Shoppers World, of course, was the first mall west of the Mississippi built in this country. And it was the Shoppers World Mall that instituted the Golden Mile for Framingham, and of course caused a lot of trouble for downtown Framingham, the business area. We have here a small exhibit of the Vietnam War, 1959 to 1975. Of course, that coincided with our peace protest marches and the general unrest with the young people who were objecting to the Vietnam War. As we go along on the exhibits here, we do thank you for coming, and we hope that you will come and see more. If you'd like to find out more about Framingham history, please come. Our hours are Wednesday and Thursday, Saturday morning 10 to 12, and Sunday afternoon in the summertime, July and August. Our research library is off here. It's a small room, but it contains our files for all of our archival files, and we have, in fact, they're pretty crowded now. We're probably going to have to expand our archival files. But it also has, we have maps. We have a large collection of maps from 1699 up to the present. Many people like to come and check out the streets, perhaps the houses where they are living. We have some genealogical records and books by Framingham authors. So do come, and thank you very much. Hope to see you here. Goodbye now.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.